Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to introduce to you George Henry DeGraw. George is standing on the left. He's holding the American flag, and he is an ancestor of mine. The other person standing next to him is also a relative, and his last name is Serene, but we're not going to be talking about him today. We're going to be focusing on George, who was kind of a colorful character. Now, both the clipping and this photo and some other clippings about George were given to me by my grandfather. He received the photo and several newspaper clippings from his mother, which of course would be my great-grandmother. She ties into, or is the one that ties us into the DeGraw line indirectly. We're going to go ahead and show you another picture of George, and that is him there. Now, we do have a lot of different documents on him, including his World War II draft card, which we'll show you in just a second. I don't know if you can tell or not by the photo, but George was a medium build. He had a medium height, black hair, and light brown eyes, and we know that from his draft card. That's a picture of him out there in the forest, chopping down some trees. Now, George Henry DeGraw, he was born on January 23rd in 1882 in Granite, New York, and he died on November 17th in 1942 in Goshen, New York. He was a farm laborer. He worked on a farm owned by Mr. Space, Irving Space, which was located in Huguenot, New York, and his parents were Gilbert DeGraw and Julia Etta Lewis. Now, George here, he went ahead and married my relative, one of my more direct relatives. Her name is Della DeGraw. Her maiden name was Della Decker, and we can talk a little bit more about her later. But first, we want to go ahead and show you some of the newspaper clippings that we have about George. One of the more interesting ones is this one here, and you can see that he injured himself with some dynamite. I'm not quite sure what he was doing with the dynamite. It says here, George DeGraw of Huguenot was treated at the Deer Park Hospital this morning by Dr. W.B. Kelly for severe lacerations to the right hand and arm, received when a quantity of dynamite exploded at his home. Just how the accident occurred cannot be learned this afternoon. DeGraw was also burned in one or two places about the back. Dr. Kelly stated that the injured members can probably be saved despite the fact that they are badly burned. DeGraw was able to return to his home. Now, that again is not the only clipping that we have about George, and I'm going to go ahead and pull out the other ones in just a moment. So please bear with me. Now, this one is actually one of my favorite newspaper clippings that I have, and as you can see, it says, wife refuses husband a lock of hair to wear around his neck to prevent her from running away from him. And I'm sure you can guess who the husband was, and yep, it was George. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and read the article to you. It says, Leroy and Eva Boyd were arrested by Corporal Kober and Trooper Sayers on the complaint of George Henry DeGraw, and they were found guilty of disorderly conduct in the harboring of DeGraw's wife after arraignment before Justice of the Peace Marcus Stamp at Cutterbackville last night. DeGraw swore out the complaint after he had gone to the home of Boyd, his son-in-law, yesterday afternoon and asked his wife to come home with him. He complained that it was Boyd's doing and that she refused to live with him. Miss DeGraw on the stand stated that her husband had tried to cut off a portion of her hair, and he, when asked about the incident, said it was true and that he wanted the lock of hair to wrap around his neck and shoulder, for he believed it would be good luck and would cause her to return. Before the case was settled, a reconciliation was effected between the DeGraws, but Mr. and Mrs. Boyd were found guilty and sentenced to 30 days each, which the sentence was later suspended. Now, we do have an additional article that I'm going to go ahead and pull out regarding the DeGraws, because evidently they had lots of marital problems, and I think this next article that I'm going to show you is also one of my most favorite ones. So give me just a second and I'll go ahead and pull that one out. Okay, I went ahead and located that other clipping that I wanted to show you, and as you can see here, it says, man gives wife more than half of his potato supply, and if you haven't guessed already, yep, the man was George, and his wife was Della. And it says right here, Chief of Police Moorhead at the City Hall received a unique call by telephone this morning from a resident of Huguenot. The man informed the chief, and he said that me and my wife have busted up. If I give her half of what I've got in the house, can she make any trouble for me? The chief said he thought not. Well, I left her 2 bushels of potatoes, and I took 1, answered the man from Huguenot, who did not advance any further information concerning his worldly goods with which he had endowed the partner of his happiness. So there you go. That gives you an idea of what George's life was like. Now, as I had mentioned before, we do have some census records for George. So far in my database, I have ones that range from 1900 to 1930, along with his draft card, and we're going to go ahead and flip through those so you can take a look and see. There's some of the old censuses. That's his draft card that shows about his working days for Mr. Space. And that's more of the census records. And that's pretty much all we have on him, in addition to that other photo that I showed you. Again, he's one of 8 children, and his parents were Gilbert DeGraw and Julia Etta Lewis.